we have a mic which we will share, and I'll pass one from this side if we need it also. So what, maybe I'd like to kick off with, what are some of the biggest challenges that you have encountered in navigating the reduced marketing budgets, and how have you overcome them to achieve your goals? So maybe we'll start with Annalise.
Hi, I feel this question was made for me, coming from the B2B world. Since COVID, I think we've been through many waves of cost efficiency. So I'm going to start with the opportunities, and then I'll talk about the challenge. So how we have addressed it is really thinking about focusing our campaigns, so reducing the number of campaigns, and Jin and the team at Brain Labs are laughing because they've been a big part of that journey. But we're not just looking at campaign ROI, we've also been looking at what are the services that deliver the most margin to the company as well, and really sort of having a whole, a big strategic view on that, and also partnering to make sure that we have local relevance, but we're not creating same but different campaigns in each country, so that we can invest in high quality content and be bold with our creative, because when budgets are tight, you can't afford to be boring. And so we really try to humanize our brand, use CGI, use humor, use different content hijacking by talking on topical trends to try and stay relevant and cut through. So even though we have had reduced budgets, I can say the last few years that the impact that our marketing teams around the world have had has increased, which is kind of a little bit, you would think it's the opposite, so that's been great. The big challenge, I think, as a marketing leader is the impact of culture. I remember when I was starting my career and you would have a nice idea, like I remember doing a virtual tour of a data center, very exciting, and that was successful, so then you got more budget, so there was an investment in new ideas and things. Now if you deliver more, they're like, great, keep doing that, I'm going to increase your budget, decrease your budget by 50%, but you've got to have a higher target next year. And then we've had team leaving, and so keeping the team close and protecting culture has been my biggest challenge.
Okay, I have the mic. I'm old, so pardon the paper in my hand. Not so cool, don't have like fancy iPad. So in terms of challenges, there's just recently, I think it was just day before or yesterday, another agency that won't be named released a report on ad spends globally. And they predicted that in Asia, ad spends are supposed to grow by 5.8%. Which is much higher than EMEA and North America, which when they interviewed CMOs, they said, we believe that our budgets will increase. So about 86% of the CMOs said that. But at the same time, almost 40% said, but our objectives are demand generation. So once again, brand and brand awareness is going to be deprioritized for ultimately looking at the lower sales. And which is the necessity of the day, right? So as R3, because we are not the ones who do the marketing budgets or have the cuts, and we are not the one from the agency side who have to develop work for that. As an independent perspective, one of the key things that we always talk about is to have very clear objectives and priorities for each campaign. So I really liked when Chloe put up on her slide that the platforms are not interchangeable. You can't decide that, now I'm going to use this, or you know what, it's okay, we already have put money against TikTok, so let's use it for this particular campaign. So be very clear on what is the objective of each campaign, and that is what's going to help you stretch your budgets the best.
Right, great insights. The whole notion of less has made us think about more, right? And it's all about more smart, more efficient, more targeted, more planning, more everything. And I recall going through the whole time of COVID and through different types of cycles in the economy. It's forced us to start thinking about these key questions, right? That as marketers, we all have to answer. Like first, who are we really targeting? Who are our customers? And the other thing that we've actually found out during this period of time is that the customer isn't that one IT decision maker that you're looking for right now. There's not one person, it's really a committee of up to about 20 people if it's a big enterprise. And so forcing us to think about who we need to speak to, who we need to reach out to, and then who is the multiple group of people that we're trying to engage with. And then you think about the jobs to be done. So I really like the point that you brought up earlier about the jobs to be done, factoring that in terms of part of your engagement story. And then the next thing is the question why. Why do we exist? And I'm very proud to work for LinkedIn, and I really truly believe in the power and purpose of what we stand for, which is really to bring economic opportunity to every single person in the global workforce. And when you think about who and why, right? Why as a company do you exist? Why are you going to bring that value to your target who, right? Your customer. Then it really defines the narrative you want to tell, right? Which then leads you to the where. Where do you want to tell that story, right? And what do you want to tell that story with? And when you think about all the different platforms, and I truly agree, like it's not a one platform dimension, it's a multi-platform dimension. You would have, as everybody will go through life and you go through different parts of your own phase in your daily life, you are interfacing with different platforms, different spaces. Why would your marketing be different, right? And so you have a holistic way of thinking about that. And then what do you say? And what do you use as a delivery? As Helen mentioned, video has been one of those most outstanding ways that you can tell your story. Earlier on, you talked about the short form, right? Short form is short form for video. And as short as you can get is really as high as you can hit. And I think that what has really created a new way of making us think about how do you tell that story. And then we move on to then how do we do this eventually? One of the most amazing things that we have learned when we think about doing more with less and then being more ingenious about it is influencers. Helen is exactly right too. This is something that we do ourselves here at LinkedIn. It's not just about the influencers that you have to pay to create content with. It's about every single person in your company. And we actually did a test. We actually do work with some content creators and influencers as well. But we also work with a lot of our internal staff. And we actually did one test once with a campaign. And we found that the efficacy of the internal staff created the content for that campaign probably exceeded some of the other paid content creators we worked with. And we were shocked when we saw that. And we realized that, when you create content, you think about heart share, you think about mind share. And when your employees say something, there's a lot of credibility behind it. And so we realized that as part of this multi-platform journey, it's a multi-story journey as well. And how you tell your story and narrative in different parts of your world and with different people as well. So then the next thing, very importantly, is the why not, right? And then that's where we start to think about, okay, we've not done this, why not? And then we created new ways of learning, of storytelling, whether it's through video or whether it's through a different stream of learning capabilities and all that. And so I think it's really brought in a very interesting dimension overall for us when we have less. Yeah.
Great, that's a great segue for Sean, I think, to as a content creator, your perspective on kind of these reducing marketing budgets and how you are observing this from your side.
Yeah, I think like one of the constant theme from the presentations today is that we are in the attention economy, and if you don't catch attention within that 5 seconds or 10 seconds, then you lose out. And some clients that I work with in the agency side, so they do PR, right? They do comms, and a lot of their clients who are like ad tech and media, they're starting to realize that maybe we shouldn't spend too much on PR, comms, and we work with influencers instead, we work with creators instead. So I'm not saying that they are losing all the clients, but what they are finding out is that, you know, just the old days of blasting out press releases for product launches, for announcements no longer work, because everyone is short on time, short form videos catch their attention, and I think like one of the slides that Chloe showed about podcasts was good because, you know, I'm biased because I'm a podcast, but I think podcast is very intimate. Like you listen to it on the way to work, and you listen to it, you know, in transport, in, you know, doing housework and everything. And with podcasts also, it's not just the short form podcast, because you see now on LinkedIn or on TikTok, right? And I do it myself as well, the short clips of it. But the long form podcasts also work. Like a lot of people don't realize that YouTube is the #1 podcast channel. It's primarily video, right? But you know, it's not Spotify, it's YouTube, because people like to watch podcasts now as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I think I think maybe we can talk a little bit about some of the challenges. So one of the things, right, have you seen good examples of brands that are, or yourselves, ways that you have been able to overcome the challenges of now you have a choice of all these different platforms, you have a reducing budget. How would you resolve that for, or how have you maybe resolved that for a good outcome that maybe some of our other marketers here can learn from? Anyone want to give that a stab?
I'm trying to think of how to answer that. I think I'll go back to some of the conversation around humanizing and getting the right, humanizing brands for B2B and appealing to the right brain and the left brain. I think content is king has been around for a very long time as a strategy, but I really think in the B2B world, having content journeys, applying to the See Think Do Care framework, making sure that all those strategic questions that you so cleverly articulated just there, I think that's really important, like to have something very compelling to say. And then innovating with new channels, new partnerships, doing things in different ways. And I do think it's also about where you're investing and that consolidation of spend. So yes, you need to make sure that you're in lots of different channels, but also being really, when you were talking, sorry I'm rambling a bit, but when you're saying about being clear about the intention, I think it's also trying not to do too much. So being very clear on your objective and then applying it across all channels, all creative, all content to try and pull things together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And maybe do we see, I think, the way that balancing long-term and short-term gains that has been impacted?
Yeah, so just on that balance, that is something that we're currently trying to look at right now. We've been looking at not just the percent of investment in marketing as a whole, which many, compared to our revenue, which many B2B brands, I think, struggle with compared to B2C, to make sure that we've got the right investment envelope, and then looking at the balance of that with demand compared to brand spend. And in recent years, I think there's been a lot of focus on lead gen, demand gen, what is the financial impact that we can have in quarter, in year. And excitingly, I think we're seeing a lot more understanding at our executive board on the power of brand and investing there for that heart share as well as mind share, but also the role we play not just in impacting our clients' perception of our brand and our services, but also as a tool to retain and attract the best talent in our industry, and also to influence shareholders, because the more they understand about our brand and our vision, that can only mean good things for our share price.
Absolutely. And it's not just about sales, it's also about talent management, about longevity of the overall brand.
Absolutely.
I think maybe Seema has something, I think from the perspective of seeing both sides, right, of balancing long and short term. Is there anything you can kind of share about how brands that you see
So I'll
doing?
talk about two case studies, and this goes back to whenever you have tight budgets and when we talk about brand building, the one thing that sometimes is forgotten is storytelling. And storytelling can happen in a very, very simple way. So if you guys haven't seen the latest campaign by Cadbury, I'm sure everyone knows Cadbury, the purple packaging, they came up with a fantastic...
Anybody that doesn't know Cadbury, please come
Yeah,
and see me.
I was going to say, so it's the beautiful purple, and it's the packaging, which has been like around for centuries, and it's purple, everyone knows that. But what they did was, in order to get people to talk about I mean, how can you talk about chocolate? And honestly, it's a good chocolate, but they're better chocolates. But they have built an amazing brand. They just absolutely have. And their packaging was that they took their purple packaging and they literally put in boxes on how would you share a chocolate. So how are you going to share a chocolate with me? I'm a kind person, I will do it half and half. But what they did, they came up with very, very smart messaging. So it was things like, who got the food, who got the drinks, who got the vibes. So who got the vibes is going to get the smallest piece because you didn't really contribute. And my favorite was, who chose what to watch on Netflix, who let them choose what to watch. So the person who lets choose gets the bigger, it is so simple. It is just a packaging idea. It is a very smart copywriter. And this then actually does not even help in the brand building, of course, but it also has another leg which comes in your trade marketing and retail. So this was a very simple and powerful idea which went back to brand but also went related back to sales. Another one is a completely different category, and I won't ask for show of hands, but it's on Hinge. I don't need to know who's on Hinge. But what Hinge did was, because there's another trend right now called book talk. Now, personally, as a reader, I find book talk just cringing. Like if you're reading books and TikTok, I'm sorry, I'm old-fashioned as I said, but it is a huge trend that publishers in North America were so worried when the TikTok ban was announced because they were like, what's going to happen to our marketing if there's no book talk? So what Hinge did was convert real-life stories into romantic books and stories, and they actually printed what Gen Z are calling zines. I'm sorry, they're magazines. We grew up on them, don't take it away from us. But they didn't just do digital magazines, they also did physical ones. So it was converting real content. So you didn't even have to go out and get, and we do need influencers, they have a place, but you also have user-generated content. There are people who had success stories in your app, and you convert them. So these would be, recently, these are the two examples I've seen.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Maybe Sean can talk a little bit about the creative in influencing the success of these. So I think a lot of, as we are crunched for budget, we talked a little bit about the right time, the right place. So maybe there's some success you've seen with your clients and also brands that you've observed.
Yeah, I think one of the things like what Helen says is also getting your CEO as the face of the brand, and that's a challenge for me as well, trying to get my clients to be the face of their brand, right? And because they are shy, they don't want to, they think they will dilute the message if they are the face of the brand. And one client that I work with, that I produce their LinkedIn content for them. And one of the things that I try to get them to do is to do more videos, to talk and to, try and share the message rather than just writing the copy all the time. And I've succeeded once, not very successful, but I think I'll keep trying and getting that video on. Thank you. Yeah.
No, so it's a journey, it sounds like. It's
Yeah.
not every day that everyone, especially in the working team, necessarily sees themselves as an influencer or can create content.
Yeah, I believe everyone is a content as a creator, right? On LinkedIn, especially when you are telling your own personal stories, you are doing your own personal branding, and when you, like Sima said about storytelling, that's the ultimate goal. You need to tell stories, and what's better way than before people know you as a person.
So maybe Surin, have you seen, I think from your perspective also, brands that have managed to successfully feel their CEO or even part of the buying team? Chloe talked also a little bit about it's not just people that are senior, it is everyone that can be part of that content journey. Can you share a little?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are so many examples that we see online, and I think each and every one of us kind of even follow some of them. But I think some of the very successful brands who have done that include people like Salesforce. Helen shared an example about what they did with their event, but they've gone beyond that, right? They've invested heavily in also building their leaders to be thought leaders. So for example, Sujit Abraham, who is the SVP for Southeast Asia, is often on LinkedIn sharing the story about not just about from Salesforce perspective, but also with customers and everything. And I know Sujit personally, and I always enjoy listening and hearing what he says and shares. And so they've kind of had a very multi-view approach, on how they use it, and it goes from a very senior leader right down to just, anybody itself. At LinkedIn, we live what we sell, we drink our own champagne, and I would say that we are also a company who really stands by what we talk about. And so from a very senior leader perspective, so if you guys, some of you might follow Ryan. Ryan is our CEO, Dan Shapiro is our COO. Ryan and Dan are very avid users of LinkedIn to not only do two things, right? Not only to communicate and share with the LinkedIn community at large, but actually they use LinkedIn to communicate to the rest of LinkedIn. And one of the things that we realized when we work with our leaders and we try to build their profile and help them find their voice on platform, if they have not done yet, is we tell them that sometimes what you say has a very big cascading effect. It's not just an external communication, it's internal. And we've actually observed how some of our team members have then taken a lot of what the CEO or CEO have said and used it at client meetings and share. And so I think there's a very broader view of how it can be done, and just using LinkedIn as an example.
Absolutely. So I think the next question is probably designed for very specific panelists. And we're looking at kind of ways in which you have maybe leveraged technology, new ways of doing things in media to be able to kind of facilitate this crunch of, doing less with, doing more with less budgets. So maybe Annalise, you can share some of these tactics,
Sure. There's so much, when it comes to technology, there's so much choice, and I mean, AI is the obvious massive game changer, and I'm lucky enough to work at a company that have invested early and gone in big with AI, so hopefully there'll be more exciting innovation and stuff to come out. That we have JLL GPT, which is our own GPT. We've had it for over a year for all employees. So as a marketer, and you had some points on the slide earlier, from content creation, value proposition writing. I was using it when you were having the influencer slide at B2B about Ali K, and I was using it to think about what other influencers we could use if that was a strategy for us. And you've got all of these amazing tools, so I think it's another perspective to help at the beginning of a marketing strategy, like to stress test, have we really nailed who we're talking to, what is the strongest value proposition, how are we using AI to scrape the audience to understand where there are gaps in our content. One of the early places we've used it has been in creative. We used AI to help us imagine the future of real estate. So what will the office look like in 5 years' time is actually harder than what the office will look like in 20 years. Because in 20 years you can go crazy and kind of go big on trends. But so that was quite an interesting experiment. Or so we've done a lot with AI to help with content and creative. Where we have a challenge and probably need to do more on is predictive analytics and things like that, and using AI in our campaign planning and looking at results. So the challenge in that is finding campaigns that we've got consistent data sets for a period of time, and then permissions for third-party data, and giving our data to other people to help us make it, to help us build that. The other opportunity that we have, you see my job title is brand and client experience, and we've brought together our client voice, our client listening and brand together for the first time. And with JLL GPT, we're starting to plug in not just brand data, brand performance, but also our client NPS scores and their feedback. So it's too early, but I'm really excited to see what that might do for our ABM.
Wow. I think that's huge. I mean, I feel like there'll be a session we'll have next year, which will be, trends of searching into your AI tool instead of on Google or even your social.
Yeah, and actually when you were talking, when there was some content talking about social search, I start my searches on Claude now. So like, what should we be doing as marketers to influence those sorts of searches as well going forward?
So you upload it right here first, the trend. I think because I think this is a great conversation and extremely lively one, but we are running a little bit short on time. So we'll probably round up with maybe all the panelists giving us a quick short take on, what advice you'll give to other marketers out there on, who are facing these similar issues. Everyone is facing this issue, and how you can deliver those impactful results with the least possible. Anyway.
Very short answer. For marketers, it would be prioritization. We hear so much as independents that agencies would be like, I don't know why we're doing 28 campaigns every 6 months. Like, it's just happening, and that we don't get any results. So marketers, please prioritize. And for agencies, it is your responsibility to bridge the gap between your media measurements and business impact. So it's great to say 1 billion paid impressions and whatever billions of this, and so much, my favorite, so much money earned in free PR. It's all good for award entries, but ultimately, how have you impacted the client's business? Thank you.
Great insights there. I think the prioritization is really important for sure for every marketer. I think for me, 3 things I would probably advise. Firstly, it's to really rethink, right? It's all about whatever that you tried to do about 10 years ago or 5 years ago does not necessarily mean it works again. And so like constantly reflecting and rethinking your strategy and all your who, what, when, where, hows and everything is important. The other thing that is also very important for me, because sitting on the marketing side, and as a B2B marketing leader, I have a lot of responsibility on the bottom line as well with sales. And for me, what is critical is that if you want to be able to show and deliver value to your C-suite, to your CEO, to your business leader, you have to really think about the intersection between marketing and sales, right? Especially if you're a B2B marketer. And that connective tissue of alignment of where your marketing leads then overlap with your sales leads is very important. How all your marketing leads eventually flows down to not only from an MQL to an SQL, but to a close one. And looking at that journey not from just a marketing perspective, but right down to the sales perspective is critical. Making sure you spend enough time and attention to think about where your leads going, how are they being followed up on, how are the target accounts being worked on at the moment, and then thinking about what about your sales team's jobs to be done, what are the critical areas of doing that. If you cannot answer that question, it is very difficult to continue to get the level of investment that you need and to show that value. The third one is I absolutely believe about the narrative and the storytelling. And I think, as a marketer, we're not all here about the short sum of the game. We're here for the long haul. We're here to think about what that brand's going to look like in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, and how it's going to evolve. Your sales partner may not be thinking that. They're going to think about how they're going to meet their number in that quarter, that year. And so as the responsibility, you have to think about what your brand story is, who your customers are, and be the custodian of your story and your customer. So those are the 2 for me.
Great.
Thank you. It's hard coming after both of yours, but I just want to strongly endorse both the idea that you start with impact and know why you're doing it and the outcomes you're trying to achieve, and ruthlessly prioritize. I think sometimes simplification is additive, not reductive, and by focusing on what really matters, I think you can deliver bigger impact. So endorse both those points strongly. And then just to build on it, to add something different, I would also add partner.
So I imagine you're going to talk about influencers and things there that we can do that externally. But when budgets are tight, particularly in the B2B environment, make sure you've got strong partnerships internally. So if you were doing a lead generation campaign, if the sales teams are not 100% fully committed and believe in what you're trying to do and partnering with you to follow up, no matter how great or creative your marketing idea is, it's not going to deliver the business outcome. So make sure you've got those partnerships. When it comes to branding, so for example, employer brand, helping our employees feel engaged is a real priority for us. I don't have a very big employer brand budget, so the partnership with HR is absolutely critical. This is my second panel of the day because we were having a careers week this week, and we as the brand team did a hijack. So we made the theme of the careers week brand. How are we using our brand to open doors with clients, also attract the best talent in the industry, retain the talent that we have. So that allowed us to communicate our brand story internally without any additional budget. So I would add partner onto that.
No, perfect.
And that's also a nice segue for you.
Yeah, I noticed that there was a lot of hands raised when Helen did a poll on who's working in creators. So come work with me, you know, come find me. But I think if you want to start working with creators, I think the HO warning is, you know, vanity metrics, right? Don't look at the likes, don't look at the followers, because of algorithms now. A person with 10 followers can go viral. And it's the content that you post. So you need to look at the creators that create the content that resonates with you, the content that can actually speak to your audience, and not just look at how many likes or you know, the shares. Is the comments that the community or the creators community that connects with the creator that counts. And that's what I always tell my friends as well. Yeah.
No, that's perfect. Thank you so much to our panel. I hope everyone got something out of it.